And here we go. We are ready for the next guest. I had to reset everything. Now
Yep.
we are ready for the restream of everything that has to be done here. And I appreciate everybody for their patience. And I'm gonna introduce our next guest, Mr. Joel Burr. One more time, he's the owner and founder on the first direct data-driven marketing firm that uses data to fuel marketing strategies in order to achieve the results and grow your business. He's also known as a data guy. He's a data disruptor, and many knows many as he continues to prove his everyday data to the importance of beginning of any marketing data with a solid data foundation. Joel is driven business owner, entrepreneur whose mission is to provide businesses with the right information, insights, and solutions to empower their growth and success. And this being said, I want to welcome on the stage Mr. Joel Burr.
Thank you very
And
much, Peter. I appreciate you guys inviting me to be here and being a part of this. So just as an introduction, again, my name is Joel Boer, president of First Direct. For over 25 years, I've been working with some of the major brands across the country, across the world, helping them to grow and succeed by getting the right information, insights, and strategies to grow their marketing. So that's what we're talking about, because anytime we're talking about growth, we want to look at how can we grow? And a lot of times, maybe some of us here, we have a business, maybe we're trying to build a personal brand. All of that involves marketing in one shape or form or another. And we've probably all been inundated with different methods and strategies and schemes, to put it bluntly, of things that frankly don't work, but they're purported to be the things that are going to get you to where you want to be. So how do you break it all down? Well, this is a very important thing to me. When I was very little, about 6 years old, my parents got divorced, and we were low income. I mean, we made low income look low income. We put them to shame. They were rich compared to us as far as what we had. And so for my brother and I, the only way that we could get the money that we wanted was we had to go out there, and we started our own little businesses even as kids. From mowing yards to curb painting to shoveling to you name it, we did whatever we could. And so that idea of how do you find customers and how do you get attention and how do you build it, that started at a very, very early age. And it always sparked my curiosity as far as like, well, how can I do this even more? How can I go further? When I started in this industry, I was about 19 years old. I'd actually just come from working in Chicago on natural gas deregulation for Occidental Petroleum, and was actually selling that in the field. And one of the products that we used was this product called Business USA. It was a CD-ROM product back in the day. And so this thing of data really, really perked my interest. And I was like, man, with data, you can know a lot of things. You can make decisions. You can close cycles down faster. You can grow business faster. And so when I came back to Omaha, I actually went into work for one of the major compilers of data, American Business Information, as they were known then. They're now known as a company called Data Axle. But there's many different source providers out there for information. And when we think about marketing, information is a center point of the marketing and whether your marketing is going to be successful. And it's not always just information, of course, on who your prospect is or those types of things. It's getting the right information, as we're talking about, to grow. So Jeff was talking about systems and the importance of systems. We got a lot of other people talking about different information that's going to be important to growing in different ways. But what I'm going to share with you today is basically growing your business, growing your brand with the right marketing strategies. And really, how do you find out what's going to work, and how do you measure it? How do you execute it? And what are some of the things to really keep in mind as you're doing that? So it's an important thing that we want to get started on. So the first part I always work with customers on is the who. And that who has a few different angles to it. That who starts with you. To put it simply, it kind of sounds like a Dr. Seuss rhyme, doesn't it? The who and you. But that really is where it starts. It starts with you. So to start your marketing, we need to identify, hey, what do you stand for? What's the product or services you offer? Right? What are you known for? What value can you give? Those types of things. Those are the important things that we want to start with, and we want to stay centered on right there. First of all, whenever we work with customers, some of the first simple questions we ask for is, we want to learn about the business that they're in. We want to learn what's that product or service. We want to learn about where do those customers for that product or service, where do they reside? Some businesses are national, some businesses are global, some businesses are very geography focused. Maybe it's just in your city, your town, or your state that you're focused. Well, that's important to understand as you're starting that journey of your who, which would be the customer. But again, let's go back to the who and what you stand for. So a lot of people don't look at a few key things that are really important. What's your mission? Why are you doing what you're doing? And what are those center things that it makes you wake up every single day? Your mission in your marketing or in your business is very critical to tying that into your marketing. Also, too, what's your vision? So here at First Direct, our mission is to transform businesses with the right information, insights, and solutions so they can grow and succeed. Our vision is to do that for over 100,000 businesses worldwide. So 100,000 businesses, doesn't sound like it's a lot, like 1 million businesses, but for us, that's actually a good number given the fact that the way that we work with businesses in a very one-on-one fashion, that's a big number. To date, First Direct's been around for about 17 years at this recording right now, and we've serviced well over 1,500 businesses and helping them and their clients grow and succeed, working with some of those major brands. So that mission and that vision has got to tie into what you, of course, advertise. Now, if you don't have a business and you're building your personal brand, maybe you're a solopreneur, you're an entrepreneur, that brand that you really need to focus on, first of all, and I think Jeff would agree with me, is you. You need to build out that brand first. It's the easier one to sell. It could be everything that you center around. You're going to build that out. As it's like right here. I'm gonna build out my brand. I got my initials right here. That's JB. I got my website up right here. You can go find me, joelbuer.com. I'm gonna use that because hey, it's gonna be an easy conversation starter. I'm gonna really promote that out. So the mission and vision of, if it's just starting with you, what is that mission and that vision that you want to accomplish? And get really crystal clear. So that vision, for example, having that definite number, it gives us a target. So as you start growing, you start scaling, that vision is going to become really critical because it's what your organization is going to center around. Our team here is centered around every day. Hey, what is the next business that we can impact? We can make a remarkable impact with our business. That's our goal. So your vision, maybe Jeff on the window business that he's in, maybe he wants to help this many homeowners reduce energy costs or those types of things or savings because of better windows, right? And that's going to be environmentally impacting in a positive way, something like that. So when we think about then the products or services, what is the product or service that you're actually delivering to the market? And of course, make sure that's a product or service that has a want in the marketplace. And if you're just starting out and you don't know, the easiest way is figure out what that thing is and go hit the market. A lot of times people will wait too long to identify whether their product or service has any merit or value or any traction. And they'll waste a lot of time. So this beginning part of the who is really kind of, first of all, let's get the framework in place about who you are, who your customer is that's going to use your product or service. And let's put all these things concrete down, at least get them started, maybe on a piece of paper, and that way you can get started. So when we've identified all of these things, some of the next things we want to look at then is the data. So the data is a favorite part of mine. It's like the lifeblood. It is actually the lifeblood of any marketing strategy. Every single one of us here that's watching this now, or that's going to watch it in the future, we are a piece of data that's coming in. And so it's this whole very thing right here, the summit, is impacted by data in that way. So when we think about the data, though, we want to identify, what does that ideal customer look like? So we talked about briefly before as far as the geographic area that you impact. Well, if you're like, well, hey, I go nationwide. Okay, maybe you do, and that's important for later. But is your audience even more concentrated locally? So your efforts, that's going to be important too, as far as, because your efforts that you're going to exert, you want to go big, yes, but you got to start somewhere. So if you are a small business starting out and you have a limited budget, trying to push that budget across a wide net right away, you're not going to get the results you need. But if you consolidate and you use data to actually do that, you're going to see some impact with that. So when we think about that data, that ideal customer, let's say, for example, I'm going to use my friend Jeff here as the example on the window side of things. So, hey, you're selling windows, and who would be the customer for that? Well, they're going to have to own the property, right? You're going to have to own the property of the house that they're in. So they don't have to live in the house, but they just have to own the property, because that's going to be the who's going to make a decision on buying it. Right. Old people that can't do the work. Maybe it's seasonal. Jeff's chiming in on the chat right here, right? Maybe it's seasonal, those types of things, right? People start thinking of, well, you know, what in the Midwest where I'm at, up in the middle of the United States, hey, it gets cold. So people aren't gonna buy as much probably during the winter time. They're gonna buy maybe in spring, because they're like, man, that leaky window, you know, that's gonna be the time to hit it there too. So think about where they live, where they work, where they shop, where they dine, where they play, right? I'm constantly looking at, as far as like where they play, you know, that's an easy thing, or where they go for business, where they go for networking. I'll use a lot of different data strategies, and we do that for our clients too, as far as like, well, hey, you know, I know you're looking for this person that's going to buy your product or service. Where do they go? Let's learn about them. Let's dissect that a little bit. If I'm looking for really successful business owners, right? You know, one easy target might be, hey, is it networking conferences? Well, not only should you go to the networking conferences, obviously, as part of your marketing plan, but also too, we can use technologies today called geoframing and geofencing to actually capture that information and actually use that in your advertising. So that way your budget that you spend later, and we'll get into that on execution, that budget that you spend later actually is really focused on that audience. You can build awareness within the circle that you're actually touching a lot. So it's really important when we look at, as far as where they work, where they shop, where they play, because those are all new opportunities, and information data, big data, has opened up those areas so that you can actually use those. So let's see here. I'm looking at it here. Home Depots. I love this. Okay. So, and some of the examples of that, recently I was able to spend some time with a good friend of mine, Matt Smith, down in the British Virgin Islands. So we could actually use that logic. Think about it for a second. Most people that are going to end up in a certain venue, a certain area, that automatically tells you certain things about them. Many of us might know each other from the 10X community. And so we've met at a 10X Growth Con. Well, what's a common thing amongst the majority, the concentrated majority of the people that are out there? Well, they're business owners. So if you're someone that's selling a product or service, then this audience or this venue is a great start. So now, you know, is that going to be the person that has your product or service? Now, it's an important thing as we think about this here too. We think about the who and like your ideal customer. A lot of people, and hopefully this comes across, you know, if we look at as far as where people, this is the sale, this is what we're all after when we're trying to do our marketing. We're after that one person that's going to spend money with us and do that transaction. We're like, that's the deal. I just want deals. I want leads. Oftentimes I get customers telling me, I just want leads, make that happen, right? And so, but a lot of times what people are doing is they are starting their marketing right here, and they're trying to touch people right here on the journey. So I break this down for our clients because it's important that they understand the full journey, because the full journey opens up a bigger opportunity in their marketing efforts. That full journey, if you understand, like, what are the possible places along the journey that, you know, you're my little stick figures here, right? When these people right here, where do they jump on the journey? This guy may jump on here. You know, you may have a few people that jump on here, right? They're all on the same journey, but where can you find these people? So when we think about who uses a certain product or service, think about, well, what are they doing before they need that product or service? What is that journey for that customer? So when we go over here and we start here, this opportunity to start marketing to them becomes easier when we start over here and we catch these people. It's a much easier acquisition than right here. So our long-term strategies are going to work better than the short-term gains that a lot of people focus on. So short-term is great too. We all love a quick sale. I love the quick, hey, let's roll, let's do this. But usually if you peel back the covers a little bit as far as that journey, when somebody says, hey, let's roll, let's do this, they've been doing homework and research and everything. They're just finally at that stage, ready to go. So if you can start to identify these spots, and this is why it's important that you know who your who is and what that who looks like, and that who can change. That who can vary. You could have different personas. You probably maybe have heard the word persona. You can have different personas that use your products or services. And so identifying that is going to be a game changer for your business. And yeah, this takes a little bit of homework. A lot of people want to go fast right away, to the end. Hey, I got this widget. I want to sell it. I'm with you. Let's do the homework so we can sell a lot of it versus just a little of it and burn all your cash reserves in the process. We don't want to do that. We want to build the cash reserves. We want to build the flow. So this time to build out the personas, what does that persona look like? What do you need to know about that individual that's buying your product or service? Well, if you're just starting out, you may not know. And so some educated guesses are a good place to start. Well, hey, they got to be a homeowner. They got to have the money, right? And they got to be in the market for it. So if we're selling somebody windows, for example, well, if it's a brand new house, probably not going to buy, right? If they just bought the house, probably don't have the equity. They're probably tapped out on equity. And windows are a big investment, a good size investment. All right, so what are we looking for? We're looking for people that maybe live in a house, 10 to 15 years old. They have at least about maybe 30% equity in that property, right? And that equity's got to be at least greater than $20,000, $30,000 US at this time for them to make a decision. So I got a big client of mine. They're a home improvement client. They manufacture a lot of products that I guarantee every single one of us have used their product, no matter where in the world you're at. You've used my client's product. And so they manufacture home improvement products. And our strategy right there is quite simple. To advertise for their showrooms, we're going after people that have equity, usually $50,000 or greater, because their products are a pretty hefty price tag. We're going after home values of those individuals that own homes of at least north of probably $300,000-$400,000 across even the Midwest. That nowadays maybe needs to go up even further. What's the name of the product? We've all sat on one. How's that? I'll give you a hint. So we've all sat on it. We maybe washed our hands in it, etc. Those types of things. So, but we're looking for that right person who's ready to make like a complete kitchen or bathroom makeover, right? So they got to have that money to spend. So when we know our who, we can dive in deeper, and then we can use data to target our marketing effectively. Now, the other thing with data, the nice thing is to test. With the marketing, even with data, and we'll get into this again more into like insights and execution, but it's also testing and realize, well, this person right here is going to look different than this person right here, and that's okay. One of my clients, Panda Express, we did a lot of direct mail for them. And one of the things, we did a lot of data capture. We put a whole system in place so we could track just what on each postcard, if they redeem this coupon versus this coupon. And the data that we used to actually do the campaign, where we actually did the full execution for them, there you go. You sit, wash your hands on. When we did the execution for them, we were tracking all the demographics of the person that we were actually targeting on our campaign. What we found out is on typical average, Panda Express, for example, had a persona that they viewed as their main persona that walked in their store and bought their orange chicken. That was their main product that they really promoted at the time. What we identified though is, hey, listen, that's your main persona that doesn't take any incentive to actually get in to come buy your product or service. They're an easier transition, but there's more in the market that you can actually go grab by understanding the data and then sending the right offer to that individual. And what we were able to do is actually find lower income segments that were willing to come spend, maybe not as regular as the other segments, but it definitely was a huge chunk of new revenue that they had not been tapping on before. We found out that the majority of those were seniors, for example. Maybe they're using that coupon for date night, or it's a married couple and they got kids. And so, hey, that coupon helped them get their kids out. And they spent a little bit more than And they wouldn't have done that had they not gotten that coupon. But when you track it, and this is where insights come into play. When you track it, you put in the mechanisms. Jeff talked about systems, the importance of systems, and those systems need to work for you. It's as you put your whole strategy together. If you're already marketing, you're like, I'm missing some of these things right now. It's okay. It's not too late. You can add things to this. So you can build this out and add in the missing pieces. Don't panic. Just keep a consistent roll. So, but going back to as far as knowing what they do, what they work, where they work at, where they shop, where they dine, those are all huge opportunities in today's market in the data strategy for your marketing. So they're customers that you need to go after, competitors' customers, for example. The reason why the data is like one of the first things, it's actually not like it's the first thing that you should look at, because data should always inform what strategy that you're going to use. And then the strategy is going to always affect your creative. So a lot of people will say, well, hey, I got this beautiful thing that I've had somebody design. It's a postcard. It's digital ads. It's a video I went and had them do, but they put no thought into, well, who's the audience that's going to respond to this versus the audience that buys my product. And so a lot of times it's unfortunately wasted ad dollars. So when we jump into the next part, so we talk about data, insights, and execution, or data, insights, and solutions. Insights, understanding that information first, is going to help you to plan your insights as far as how do you want to talk to them. I've got a lot of clients that they'll come to us and they'll say, well, I want to do this, this, and this on my marketing. I'm like, not a problem. Let's make sure that that's the right alignment with who your audience is, right? And I'm always curious, where else is an audience at? Where else can I touch them at? So we do here at First Direct, we do a lot of digital marketing. We do a lot of direct mail. We do a lot of email marketing. And each of those channels are very powerful. And when we talk about digital, we're talking about, yes, your platforms like on Meta, your TikTok, your Snapchat, your Twitter, your LinkedIn. But then we also talk about big programmatic display, which includes things like connected TV, digital out of home, which is when you're at the airport and you see those videos with advertisement, that's called digital out of home. And even it goes to the digital billboards where we can buy that space for a client. There's a lot of powerful things that you can do. So once you understand the data, though, you'll also start to understand, well, what channel should I be talking to my audience on? So for some of us, maybe a direct mail campaign may be a little bit more expensive on the budget that we want to spend. So maybe we're using something like Meta for Facebook ads or Instagram ads, or we're using TikTok now. But the thing that I would always encourage is to look at your audience and find out where your audience goes. So when we understand previously where they play, what they do, where they shop at, where they dine at, let's also find out where they're entertained at. So is it TikTok? And if you're like, my customer's not on TikTok, let's figure it out. Let's find out, test it. It'd be surprising if they were. Now you can talk to them on that channel as well. So that goes into insight. So when we understand our data, the insight of our customer or our prospective customer a little bit better, we also then can decide what channels are the best ones to touch that prospect on. So what platforms, what media? Maybe we think that direct mail is not the way to go. The reality is it might be the best way to go. For example, if you are if you're Jeff and you're selling windows, hey, a direct mail piece is a powerful way to go coupled with digital. In fact, you can see a dramatic increase, a 287% increase, in fact, by using omni-channel approaches. Omni-channel meaning where you're using digital coupled with another channel like direct mail and even the follow-up phone call, you can sell more windows. Well, hey, in case you did, we're using it as a great example. Thanks, Jeff. But also too, on the insights, as you start to build that, you're going to use that information as far as what you know about where those people go to build your advertising strategies. It might even include product placements. We have a good client. They have an academy and they have well over 10,000 records in their HubSpot of people that have recently signed up. So it gives us a good amount of information to get insights. What we learned about those people was rather interesting. A lot of them played Xbox shooter games. They also purchased Land O'Lakes lunch meat. Okay. And this is the type of client I love it because they'll use this information as information to actually customize their advertising. So that way, when they're making videos, for example, video content, they'll throw a Land O'Lakes product package in the background just because, right? Or they'll do a skit where they're playing an Xbox shooter game and then talk to their audience about joining, coming to their academy. Why? Because it connects with their audience. If you can find the little things that connect your audience to what your product or service is, don't think that right away you always have to just simply say, buy my product, buy my product. Obviously, try it. It may work, but then this bigger net where we're catching people down here, we want to know that about them so we can execute that right. Then also too, touching into to systems. When we talk about the insights, knowing what systems we want to be able to track. Do you have we always tell our clients too, like, get your ducks in a row. So do you have your what's called Google Tag Manager installed on your websites? So that way you can accurately track or execute pixels when you're initiating, digital advertising and even direct mail advertising. Because if you drive somebody to the website, maybe you can use a QR code to drive them to that website, and you want to be able to track that. But if you don't have your pixels firing on your website, a lot of times we'll come across clients where they want us to start driving digital, but they've got no retargeting going on for Google. They got no retargeting going on for TikTok, Facebook, any of the other platforms. And these are all very valuable things to get these things out of the way and make sure they're working right. Make sure they're really working right. So insights, because if you're going to expect results from something, you need to be able to inspect what you expect, right? How many of us have heard that comment before? You need to be able to inspect. Yeah, there we go. We need to be able to inspect what we expect, but we want to make sure that that's actually working right. We get all of that set up the right way to start with. It is going to make the whole process of your marketing a much simpler process. Now, the fun part, we get to execute. So once we've identified, hey, who we are, we've identified what our mission, what our vision is, which we should be advertising. We should be sharing that out with people so that they know what we stand for. And in fact, there's a few key things that, our consumers, the consumers looking for. They want to see what you stand for as far as what you're involved in. They want to see where you're at. So content is a really critical part. I'm not going to go deep on that, but content is a really critical part of your marketing strategy. It can be as simple as grabbing your iPhone, grabbing your Android, whatever, and recording a quick video and just saying, hey, look at what we're doing right here. I do that all the times with clients. I'm like, hey, look at this piece that we just did for this client. It just got this many results, right? In fact, we got a roofing client of ours. We did a campaign for. We've been running this campaign for just a little over a month. They've gotten 710 deals off of that campaign on less than $10,000 ad spend. Less than $10,000 ad spend, 710 deals. So if you do the math, it's like something crazy, like 100 and something thousand return on investment of ad spend, which is crazy. It's phenomenal. I love it. But that tells you what using the right information, when you use the right information to target the right audience at the right time with the right offer that's relevant to them, you can get phenomenal results. Now, the client just didn't wait on the advertising and sit back on the beach and wait for the calls to come in. They also did other activities. And this is where content is really critical. Total revenue about 14.2 million so far for that client. So less than $10,000 ad spend, I believe, if I'm correct. Let's just call it $10,000 to $15,000 ad spend, and they've gotten 14.2 million worth of deals from that campaign. Basically, they're going to keep hitting that. Why wouldn't they? Right now, on all of these two, I want to take a little pause here and talk about. There are some things out there in data and in strategies that are just they sound so great that you need to be careful of. Things that don't work, and these, I'm going to say some of these things are my opinion. Some of these things are, quite frankly, I'm going to say are just straight up fact. What you want to make sure of is, hey, fake followers. Fake followers are fake followers. Yeah, it's going to make you look big. That's all it does. It's fake. It's like, adding more heels to your shoes are going to make you taller, but it ain't going to make you taller. It's just the way it goes. Make sure that you're getting known for what you're doing. Spend more time advertising what you're doing versus trying to go figure out how to fake it, right? People will always see through fake. If you're genuine, if you're authentic, it's the good friend of mine, Gary Brecka, he says authenticity is the highest frequency, right? And it's so very true. And you don't have to be in person with somebody to get that authenticity. So be real. It can be on your socials. So that's why content is king. Once in a while I'll retake stuff, but for the most part, it's like just shoot it and roll it and just keep rolling out the content, because you know what, that old stuff, you'll get better over time and no one saw it. So just post it again, do it again, post it again, do it again, post it again. And you're going to see results from that. But as you continue to do that and you continue to just exercise that muscle on content and you share, hey, I'm just starting my business here. And this is what we're doing. This is my vision. I'm so excited. This is phenomenal. People want to be a part of that. And so involve them in that process. In fact, involve them as they buy products or services from you to share their experience working with you. The video doesn't have to be perfect. Just go out there and say, hey, if they're across the country, like we got customers across the country. I got a good client of mine. He's a flooring client. When he started with us, he had one location, and now he has got 2 locations. I think one of his overall growth, I think he's more than doubled revenue in the last couple of years working with our strategy. And our strategy is real simple, one that I mentioned briefly earlier, an omni-channel strategy, where we're using digital and we're using direct mail in this case for that type of a client, because that's the right way to actuate the homeowner, is to get them to come in, is basically what's called a big self mailer. It's one of those big mailers that you get in your box and they fold up. So what are some other things of, myths to be wary of? Like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. It probably is. There are different things on the data side of the world that you want to be careful of. When it comes to things like phone numbers in the United States, there's something called the National Do Not Call Law. And so if you violate that, you could actually get yourself penalized and actually get yourself fined. On cell phone numbers, you want to make sure that you're getting explicit permission from individuals to do text messaging. It's going to be more ideal there. And also don't auto dial cell phone numbers. You're going to tiptoe in what's called the TCPA regulations, and those can get really, really nasty. So be wary of that. There's nothing like waking up the next day and getting a nice letter in the mail saying that you got a fine, right? And if you don't do things the right way, it's very preventable, but there's ways to scale. Just don't do it the wrong way. The other things too that we see is there are certain things and requirements, regulations around different types of data. So anytime you're dealing with credit information, for example, there has to be firm offers that you're doing on your pieces. Anytime that you're dealing with things like ailment related information. So if you sell home health products or healthcare related products or those types of things, there's regulations around as far as that type of information and how you got to protect it. Some of those things might even fall in HIPAA depending upon how people have been capturing that, and you don't want to use it. You want to be really careful. Social security numbers. If you're in the United States again as well, you want to make sure that you're not tiptoeing on some of that information. Just stay clear of it. Stay clear of the things that potentially could get you in trouble. If someone says, well, hey, if they catch you, you might want to run away from it. The other thing I've seen here, too, is when we have a client where a guaranteed of return on investment is put there, which is great. I love a guarantee as well. The reality is when you're starting your marketing, you need to realize that there's going to be some testing involved, right? Now, in this particular case, they're using geoframe data and digital, and they're trying to connect it to offline sales. Offline data, what we call PII, personally identifiable information, you can't mix with the what would call mobile advertiser IDs or big data. You can't mix the two. It's actually not legal. So you can't do that. There's some different things where you just want to be a little bit more careful of. If you ever have questions, just reach out to me and my team, and we'll put a number at the end and you can reach out and you can ask those questions. We want to make sure that, hey, if you're in it for the long game, if you're in it for the long haul to build a massive empire, I want to help you do that. But I want to help you steer clear of the things that'll get your hand smacked. But by all means, I want to help you go take advantage of what's out there in the market. So getting to the fun part, when we talk about executing your marketing, we want to think back to this whole journey that our prospective customer is on. And we want to think about, hey, well, what do they need to see here? And maybe right here at this stage right here, they need to see some digital and just awareness right there. So as we're building awareness, maybe you're just a brand new product or service. Some of the best things to do with awareness is video. Video cannot be underrated at all. Run the video. See if you get engagement from it. What you're looking for is how much people will play from it, not necessarily, yes, you would love them to just jump over here to buy your product right there. But usually right here, what you want to do on execution of digital right there when you're just getting started is you want to start to build this awareness, and you're looking for some engagement in this, because then what you'll do is you'll go over here and you'll start a retarget campaign. This retarget campaign is going to keep on engaging these individuals along the journey to try to bring them to this endpoint of where they're spending the money with you. Now, digital is not the only thing, if possible, that you want to probably include. You know, there might be the good old fashioned pick up the phone and make the phone call as well. So if you know that, hey, your audience is, for example, mothers with children ages 5 to 10, right? And they are in this certain geographic area. Well, from a digital standpoint, we can target this audience and we can start to build awareness. But also from a traditional marketing standpoint, what we would call things like direct mail or a phone call, we can start to build a list. We can start to use that data to not only drive this digital initiative to start off the awareness, but then we can also use the same to make touch points all along the way of our journey. So if we start with the right information on who our who is, we can use that to start the journey over here. We can use it to encourage the journey as it goes on. And we can use it as a final piece in the journey until they become our customer and they come into our, for example, our CRM or something like that. When we are in the insight side, we want to make sure that on our execution that we're putting the right things in place as we talked about. We want to make sure that we have analytics in place, that it's properly set up with right conversions. Don't go too far into the weeds right away. Start tracking. Just have it there so you can start tracking. Make sure that, like, for example, your meta pixels, make sure those pixels are working and they're actually getting signals. If you don't know how to do that, we are putting together a whole series of information that's going to show you step by step on how to do that, what to look for. This is what it looks like. Here's what you want to look out for. And so we'll have information of how you can get into that a little bit later. So our whole goal, what we try to do with clients is I want to always educate clients the right way. When I started this company, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but when I started First Direct, I'd seen a lot of things done the wrong way. And I'm like, that's just not how I am. That's not how I was raised. It's not how I learned how to work. I learned how to work hard and not only work hard, but work smart and do it the right way, because it always has a better return on doing it the right way and the ethical way. So when I started First Direct, my simple intent was provide the right solutions that fit my customers' needs so they can get results, right? And so when you're doing that, we want to make sure that we're tracking things. We want to make sure that we're using the right solutions along that journey, that we're touching these people the right way. Because the last thing you want is to be known for violating something or having information, especially with some of the privacy laws that are coming out. You want to be careful. For example, in California, they have it's called the CCPA. Vermont has, very protective of data as well. And so if you have so much information that you're gathering, you want to make sure that you have a good way that you're securely storing things, that you're taking care of things. So, but through the whole journey, when we look at the data, who is, what types of insights we know about them, which is going to guide us in our execution strategies. But then when we get to finally the fun part of actually executing things, for me, I think the whole thing's a fun part, because you're learning things all along the way. New ideas are coming to you. But then also too, you want to go from start to finish pretty quickly, just to start testing right away. Don't add time to the equation. You're only going to stall yourself out. So on the execution part, we were talking about making sure that you have your tracking pixels in place, that they're working, the analytics, the heat maps, call tracking. If on the call tracking, if you have vehicles that are wrapped with a phone number, put a phone number that's just for vehicles. Track that. So the same system that Jeff was showing there, you can grab additional phone numbers. We provide a similar system to our clients as well. And the whole purpose of that is we want our clients to be able to track and see that the marketing is actually working. Again, if you're going to expect something out of it, you need to be able to inspect it, right? So don't get stuck. For example, if you say, hey, well, I got this one special number. It says my business name. If you spell it all out, that's great and all, but people don't care, right? That vanity number is nice and all, sounds great, feels great, but you're getting too centered on the wrong thing. Use tracking to actually see whether something's working. So for a client, for example, we'll give them a number that they'll use and they'll put that as the number that's on vehicle. So if a phone call comes in, guess what? We now know that the money we spent on vehicle wraps paid off. We're getting calls off of that. People are seeing that, they're engaging it. If you're going to put a marketing on a park bench, put a different number so you know that the park bench is actually paying for itself or not. That's your simple measurement. Instead of putting maybe your full URL, put a QR code and a phone number right there on the park bench. If you're using a big sign, same thing. Give some way that you're going to be able to track and see that your marketing is working. Also, too, like on direct mail, the client that we have such a high rate of return on his direct mail pieces, we're using a tracking number. Beautiful thing is we can see the results rolling in. The minute the postcards are hitting people's doors, they're like calling, they're like, my roof's leaking, I need that fixed. And we're able to actually, hear the recordings, those types of things. URL tracking. So we want to know also too, when we get into, for example, digital ads, we want to know that if we change versions, which version of our advertising is working. A lot of times with a client, we will A/B test things just to see what's going to work, what's going to get attention. Maybe this gets lower impressions, but our click-through is higher and our actual conversions are higher. And so we'll shut off the one that's burning impressions that's costing us a lot of money, but we'll keep that one going because we're tracking that. We're able to inspect it. So we want to look at, if you ever get into as far as digital display advertising, you want to look and see such things as if you're getting a lot of impressions or you're getting a high amount of clicks, what domains, what sites, what apps are those clicks coming from? Because that's an easy way to spot what we would call spam, basically spam clicks. You want to filter those out. So data, insight, execution. When you put all these things together, when you identify who your who is, which is you, your mission, your vision, your values, your brand, you build all of those things out. You identify who's the right person that's going to use your product or service. Don't overcomplicate it. Start simple, right? And get started. And then figure out how are you going to communicate with these individuals? How are you going to engage them on this whole journey? And instead of trying to start like right here in the whole journey, ask yourself the big question of how can I find them back here? What do they look like a little back before? If your whole product or service is around parents with very young children, find the young parents that just got married that don't have children yet. Start touching that advertising lightly. That's an audience it's a big game play, but you can start to touch them right here. And you can build it up there. So that way you're becoming a household name to them. You're starting to build awareness. So what we've actually put together, I'll put a slide up here in just a second here, is basically we want to give you information. So when we started, like I said, I wanted to always make sure that we're giving clients information that they can work with, that they can put into action, that they can see results from. So one of the things that we kicked off, for example, a couple of years ago was something we called the Vibe. And we put together a special series that's actually just for taking back your marketing. And so I'm going to go ahead and kick this up real quick here. Give me 1 second. Let's go ahead and I'll share this real quick. So right there, if you hit that QR code, or if you hit text the word or text the TBYM, take back your marketing, to the 402-403-6210, right there, that'll land you on a page. It's free. It's no charge to you at all. You can get started. Just plug in your email and we're going to give you tips and information right to your inbox that you can put into action to actually take back your marketing and build it. And we also have something a little bit further down, something that we put together for our clients. We actually have a program that our clients will actually come to our office. We'll go to our client's office. We usually, the client that came to our office, that that we actually build a lot of this out for, those types of things. It's a $3,000 program that we do for those clients. So we have this available for you too there. It's only $97. But what it dives into is it's a complete blueprint on building your brand, for example, breaking this down as far as what you need to know on customer personas and how to build that all out. Then also too, it's basically, we've built out everything that you need to on digital advertising, what you need to know on digital advertising, what you need to know on print and mail. Print and mail is one of the things that a lot of people dismiss as something that's old, it's expensive. But yeah, it costs more money, but it has a lot of times a higher return. Landing pages and funnels. Jeff talked about this. This falls into that system, the important part of systems, having those things in place as well. And then of course, distribution. What channels are you going to use to distribute your advertising? Where are those going to go? And of course, we're providing that information as well on a constant, information that we're going to provide right into your inbox, so you can take it piece by piece, put it into action, and get some value out of it. So definitely take advantage of that. Scan the QR code that's on your screen, text the number, or text 402-403-6210, the TBYM, and we'd be happy to work with you, happy to answer any questions that you got. So I'm going to take this down for just a second, and I'll leave that up here real quick, and I'll look at the chat. If anybody has any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those. I'll kind of scroll back.
I have one.
Go for it, Jeff.
How do you deal with a client that you don't know if you want to work with, but you're getting on a call with them, and you're like, I don't know if I really want to work with them, but they want to buy from you?
Why don't you want to work with them?
Because he's arrogant.
Yeah. Usually.
But he's really insecure to him inside. The guy who booked it basically said, "I'm literally getting off this thing on I don't know if I should say this thing. Oh, he's calling me right now."
You got to figure it out, and you got to see whether it's value. I mean, we have some clients where, I want to help everybody. If somebody's a good person, I want to work with them. If they're a bad person, I don't want to work with them. I wish them the best, but I don't want to work with them. I got more time to spend on somebody else.
That's why I love you, Joe. Man, we got to do some stuff together, man. 100%. I got to have you come to one of my stuff, because we're so in sync to stuff, and I did some with Caesar, so I'll figure out a way, man. All right.
Let's make it happen, man. Yeah. I mean, just up the price.
Yeah. I know, dude. But I'm so that's a churro. Yeah, I know that is true. That's one way to do it.
I'll give you a simple example. You
used to do that in Windows, by the way. Yeah. If there was a pain in the neck way far out, we used to just be like, there's a big price, So
yeah, well, it's I don't want to ruin any type of reputations with folks, and I don't do that. We want to service. I want to see people grow and succeed, because I truly believe that, hey, if I help someone grow and succeed, I'm impacting their employees, whether that person's a pain in the rear or not. I'm impacting their employees, and their employees deserve the best that my team can give and what I can give. So if I can provide that to somebody, it's not them. I'm impacting people, and I'm impacting communities. And when I do that, all that stuff comes around. My whole, when we were talking about like marketing, usually we're talking about our businesses or our personal brands, those types of things. But, each and every single one of us probably has, if we really think about it, we have our own vision, our own mission that we want to achieve in life. And see, if I make a positive impact with people, my vision is I want to create the cause for the biggest party I'll never make it to. So if I touch people's lives, if I do the right things, I mean, that's going to be a big party. It'd be great. I won't be there, but it'd be great. So I look at that from that bigger picture, that if I'm providing something that's of the right product, right service, but if they're trying to buy something from me that I believe is not the right thing, I'm not going to even offer it. I'm just going to stay away from it.
That makes sense. Yeah, we build automated webinars for people, and that's basically what it is. And he has mindset. He's a foster kid. My assistant told me he's a foster kid. He's actually insecure. That's the reason why he told me the story. And so that kind of opened. I'm like, all right, well, but he acts like a know-it-all. When I was at some event in Vegas, and I'm jumping on the call right now. So that was a genuine, honest, authentic question. And by the way, Joel, so much of marketing. We'll be doing some stuff together. But I don't want to jump off before then.
You bet. I wish you success on the call, man.
Thanks. I'll let everybody know how it goes.
Awesome. Tabitha, what you got?
I was wondering, I wrote down, Joel, how long do you wait on the tracking side for execution? before you make adjustments. So how long is that period? Is it short? Is it, you know?
I love that question, because a lot of times, so when we start to break down marketing and what's working, and this is something that can be on digital marketing, on email marketing, and direct mail marketing. Direct mail, you kind of, the only changes you can make is piece to piece, right? Unfortunately, email marketing, digital marketing, is, I would encourage, if any business, and I'm going to answer that question, I'm going to touch on one thing real quick. Digital marketing is one of the easiest ways to start to test the message. But you need to be willing to test big enough to get real numbers to make a decision on. So to answer your question there, then, is like, we need to see in relation to what what our audience is. Hey, if we just got 5 or 6 people responding, that's probably not enough, right? If you got only 100 views on the page, or even 1,000 views on the page, it's like, I'm not ready to call the page dead yet, or the message dead yet. I might be on the wrong audience. So the message may be right. So for example, my message, I have a couple of different messages that I go out to people with. It's like, hey, do you want to take back your marketing? Are you tired of getting, fake stuff sold to you? It's a real blunt message, right? So a lot of people are like, yeah, but if I hit that on the wrong audience, it's just white noise. So you need to kind of identify, is the audience I'm serving to the right audience? Unfortunately, like on platforms like Facebook and TikTok and all those places, like especially Meta, they've removed a lot of the data that used to be used for targeting. And so if you're just running ads there, you're doing what's called run of sight. Okay, so you're enough averages, and you're trying to see, and then of course Facebook is playing their algorithm to try to get it in front of the right people, because they don't want to serve an ad to somebody that's not entertaining to some degree for them. So, but I would make sure that, hey, listen, have an A/B version when you first start out. Here's my A and here's my B. And the message could be a night and day difference. It could be a slight difference. It could be the change of a picture and with the same message or the same call to action. Does that make sense? And so what you're looking at is maybe it's a picture of somebody looking straight at you versus something else that's going to hook their attention. And you need to just balance those two, but you need to have enough volume go across both of those A and B versions, so that way you can see which one's going to be a real winner. But that's also going to require that you put enough budget on it. So, on initial testing, plan to spend, especially even on Meta, plan to spend a couple grand in the first couple weeks. You need enough volume going after it. And your initial instincts could be right. Maybe you're selling a product or service that's in, a specific town or a geographic area. Well, that helps lower your pool just a little bit to see, well, what's going to connect with this audience. So let's say you're a landscaping company. You service this area. That's your geography. You know that you're not going to sell to anybody too young or too old or within a certain income. Don't go any more crazier than that. There's your ballpark audience. Start to serve to that, see what responds from that, and then make adjustments. So I would wait probably, 3 days, a week, just to start it. Don't be quick to change it right away. You'll have to go through, number one, a whole approval process, like on platforms like Meta, again. But once you do find your message, it's like set those campaigns up as well to be with a daily budget versus a lifetime budget, so that they can run. Build 2 campaigns, one for awareness and one for lead conversion and retargeting. So really break those up. The first thing you have to do is build awareness, because if people don't know you, right, you're trying to get, for example, those platforms, even when we do display advertising, it's called programmatic advertising. It's like, we got to get enough volume going through on impressions so we can teach the system what a conversion looks like. And so we can't get a conversion until we get enough impressions and know whether a creative works, right? And if you think about things in kind of like a sequence, another page here real quick. But if here's your page right here, and here's your ads, A and B, right? I wouldn't change anything on your page yet, even too, until you know which ones of these two versions work. So once you figure out that B is the winner right here, or a variant of B is the winner right here, and there's your ad, I would start with video because it engages people quicker. We have a short attention span. Go for people watching 75% or greater, and it's the video is going to engage well. But once you have that and you start driving traffic to your page, now start watching things like heat maps. Make sure that you have heat maps on your page, so that way you can see, hey, what's the activity? So for example, we just analyzed some heat maps for one of our clients, and it's interesting to see how people will move around, how they're gravitating towards certain pictures. They'll touch on it. People, what's interesting is like when they're looking at something on a page on their phone, like they'll gravitate just by nature of attraction to different pictures over another picture. And same thing too, like where they move their mouse on their desktop. So again, on these, give it enough time so you can actually see a real winner. And then find something and then stick with it, and then start making changes to, for example, a landing page. Usually that's the scenario we're talking about, right? Or if we know that we're getting clicks on this, but someone's not calling, we need to figure that out. But then ask yourself too, like on my ads, what's my clear call to action? If you on your ad are putting your URL, click here, and a phone number, you're confusing the living daylights out of the poor person, and they're just skipping over. You'll still maybe get one or two, but I'd be very intentional about like what action, what's that step-by-step flow? What do you want them to do next along the journey? And I always tell clients, like it's like when you go to the movie theaters and they have the ropes up and they're trying to guide you where you need to go next, or you're at a theme park, they're guiding to where to go next. You got to do the same thing with your prospects. So if you want them to call you, then promote the phone number. If you want them to click to go get more information, then leave that as the main action, the prominent main action. We got a medical research client, and their main action, they're trying to get people to the page to sign up. And so we may put a phone number on the piece, but that phone number also ties to something we can track only to that piece. So one way or another, I'm either driving them to the page or I'm tracking them with a number. It accomplishes and the end result, because I'm trying to get them in my database over here. So if I get them on the page and they fill out the form, they go to my database. If they call from that ad, they're going to my database. So one way or another. And you also figure out like what does your audience want more? If you look at, for example, an older demographic, they may not want to go to the page, they'll call. They're going to be leery of going to the page. They want to call right there. So, I would look at that information as well. That's a good question though, as far as time, but I hopefully that other stuff provides more context around it too.
Wow, it did. Two things I can implement and change right now, and things that I was doing just on that right there. So I appreciate that. Had one follow-up question though.
You bet.
So also wondering about print pieces. What
Right.
are your thoughts? What I see a lot around here, I don't do a ton of mailers or print pieces. I'm in the financial space, and people
Okay.
just don't call us from print pieces typically. But what are your thoughts on, in this area, they'll do like, so I do mortgages, so I'm a licensed mortgage professional.
Okay.
Partnering up with a print piece for a realtor. What are
Right.
your thoughts on partnering up with the print piece? Or if you were going to invest the money in something like that, do you just go solo so the individual isn't confused about, what they
Right.
want? Thoughts?
So obviously within the print mail, we've probably all gotten the mailers in our mailbox where there's a lot of inserts that are in there as well. And so you can get lost if you're not in the right position, right? Because how many people flip through those? I don't flip through those. I don't even look at them, right? So, for me, and this is probably just because I'm curious what I'm getting in my mailbox. And a lot of times, like right now, my mailbox is full of college offers for my son, right? So, but also too, like, it's like, what's that mail piece and what's the right action? So like if you're Trying to, if you're, are you doing refinances? Are you doing, are you doing new home purchases? Is it, what's the main area that you dive in most?
New money.
New money. Okay. So, what you're going to look for is maybe people that are renters or, depending upon if you're like, hey, I'm always getting the young people. Hey, let's get renters that have been there at least a year and their income bracket's a little bit higher, no kids or one kid, right? And you start to, you might be starting them on that journey. We talked about like the right journey. So, you want them to do a mortgage with you right here. And what you need to probably do is start touching them right here while they're a renter and they're a couple, and start sharing with them how they can start planning. Right. So you might collaborate with a financial planner and a real estate agent so that, you're promoting getting the dream, how do you make this dream happen? Right. Instead of trying to hit them when they're ready to buy, because they might have already locked down their decision on who they're going to work with at that point. But you get over here where they're a renter, or, they got enough equity in their home where it makes sense they want to sell it. Right. And of course, with data on the property side, we can narrow down by how many bedrooms a property has. And if we see that there's 4 individuals in the household, hey, they're probably outgrowing that if there's only 3 bedrooms, right? Because maybe one's an office or something like that. So that's a great opportunity. Just think of those little data points that you can touch them at different spots. And it might be a different piece. It might be a little 4x6 card that you send to some. It might be, hey, you put on a special dinner for the more affluent ones because that mortgage is going to be better, right? And so maybe that's an invitation style piece, kind of like a wedding invitation.
Yeah, gotcha. I appreciate your
But
giving.
consistency is the thing. We see a lot of, we had one client, and it's a shame, but it's like they just they're 1 month in and they're like, no, I'm going to pause it. And it's like, it does take a little bit of time to see the consistency. As with anything, it's like, if it's worth doing once, do it more. Right. So we have got a great client that's a landscape related client. And, we're over 3 months in and working with them. And already this year, they're over 30% up from last year, same time. But what the key part is consistency and using the channels to our advantage. And we're using data to make sure we're touching just our audience. In fact, Facebook smacked my hand. I had to work about a week, working with Facebook because they said that we were being discriminatory in our advertising practices. Well, guess what? Marketing is discriminatory. I am discriminating. I am going after the audience. And that's when I work with clients, it's like, that's my whole goal, is to focus as tight on the audience as possible, the right part of the audience. So we're maximizing the impact of that ad spend.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You bet. Reach out if there's any more that we can help you with on that. We put those programs together and make it really simple and basically just turnkey it for people.
Yeah, I hope everyone on the call already sent their text message or the QR code. I did, so take action. Remember, Victoria Finch always says, I think she's on here too, she's one of our speakers, she always says, the top 5%ers take action quickly, they don't wait.
Yeah, you're just going to add more time to it. I love that.
Yeah, 100%, Mr. Burr. And I just want to say, there's a lot of information and a lot of things to process, first of all, and I think one of the key elements, especially if you're new in the field, the first thing you're going to have a headache, and then you're going to start to realize what's going on. And how much you don't know is any single business that you're starting new, or anything that you start new, usually the first thing you're going to encounter is like how much you don't know. And that's your starting point. Everybody comes as a hero and they leave as a apprentice, and one of the things that I think, from everything that you showed today, I think I would like to kind of go a little bit deeper, if it's possible, for a few moments. It is this idea that how much preparation do you need to have in order to say like that, to create decent amount of advertising for your audience. It's like, like I would like to kind of like break a little bit down this for everybody that's here. It's like, before I'm gonna go in front of you, what should I prepare? What are the things that do I need to have before I'm coming in front of first data, yeah? Before going in front of you, before going in front of a marketing company generally, what are the things that you think are needed?
Well, I think first of all, you need a product or service. So number one, you need a product or service. So we need to have that, right? I would say too that, like, a lot of times I've gotten hit too in the past of people saying, well, since you're a marketing, you're a marketing guy, I'll give you a percentage of all the sales. We don't work that way. So usually when somebody says that, they've not proven the product or service to actually work. So let's make sure that you've proven that your product or service does work and that there's an audience for that, because then we can build off of that. All right. So hopefully everyone's at that spot there, and that's just straightforward. I mean, it's like, if you haven't done that yet, you're actually doing a disservice to yourself, because you're telling yourself a bigger story that you have not been willing to go out there and test and find an audience for. So I would say, hey, get an idea, like, what do you stand for? So we talked about number 2, the mission, vision, right? Of what you stand for. We need to nail that down. If you don't have things like logos or assets in place, that's not a problem. Those can be made. They can be made really quickly. It does cost some money. Usually plan on spending, maybe budgeting, maybe about $5,000 to have everything like this kind of built out. So that way you're set. Maybe you need a website, maybe you need funnels, maybe you need those types of things, but it's like, get it set up the right way. Because if you're starting your business, if you're like a lot of business owners, you're you're in it for the long haul. And so plan on getting those things kind of set up. Figure out how you're going to follow up as well. Because if we turn the faucets on and we start advertising, you start getting calls, well, you need to be willing to follow up. The other thing I'd say too is start content, start video. You're like, well, I'm afraid I'm not a camera person. Well, you have to, number one, you got to get over that, like, right away. So start being willing to just go on Instagram, share the product or service, start sharing with your family and friends, because that's how you're going to validate this product or service right there. And once you have those things, maybe you're an established business, you're like, okay, we have a website. We have what I would call, what a lot of times the client says, well, I have a website, so I got a landing page. It's not the same thing as a landing page. We do need to look at that, because we want to take out distractions if we're driving traffic to a page, or we want to be able to track, if we're driving people to a phone number, for example, or to a brick and mortar. We also want to figure out how to track. So if you're going to start any advertising too, let's say, for instance, you have a brick and mortar, prepare your team to start asking, if they're not asking, hey, how did you hear about us today? What brought you in today? What sparked this today? Those types of things. Because if you're not going to inspect what you expect out of it, right, you're just setting up yourself for failure as well. And you're going to spend a lot of money. You're not going to have these things in place. And so when you go to, for example, a marketing firm, you don't know if they're doing their job for you. You need to figure out ahead of time, well, if I have this company do this for me, what's my KPI, my key performance indicator, that would tell me they did their job for me for what I'm hiring them to do, right? And we all know that your end result goal is the sale, the deal, but there's other indicators that obviously have to come before that. You're the person that usually needs to sell it. They can't be responsible for that selling it, the final close. That's you. And so understanding that as you go into it, that's I think a critical component. But all those other things can be done really quickly. They can be put together really nice. Knowing what that mission and that vision is right there helps us build the rest, because we know what your product and service is. We can figure out who the audience is that would buy that product or service, and build out all those assets to make you look like $1 million. We've done that for clients like within a week. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's within a week we've been able to knock those types of things out with my team.
Amazing, amazing, sir. Thank you. Like I think it's very important because, well, if especially if you're a startup or a new in the business, you need to know these elements. That's going to help you to grow your business, and not only to grow your business, that you're going to need to have it prepared for before going out to look for any marketing company that's going to help you with. So I appreciate of sharing those elements with us. And um, any last advice that you have on marketing for a person that, let's say, they start recently and just like let's say like under 1 minute.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's something we probably a lot of us have heard as well. It's like take action. So the first thing you have to do is get started and accelerate. So don't underestimate the amount of marketing you're going to have to do to bring your new business, your new product, your new service, or whatever to the market that you're trying to bring it to. Figure out what's some of the lowest hanging fruits and what's that customer journey from where they started before they were interested in your product to where they need to go. But again, take action, and consistency is key. If you don't have that consistency in place, and that, make that decision before you start that you're going to stay consistent with it and you're going to stay in it, right? And not get discouraged, because you got to be willing to test quick, change quick, move quick, invest, and keep pushing so you can find something that works. We've had some scenarios where it was a really difficult product or service, and it's like we had to test well over a dozen different variations before we finally found something that started to work. And so expect to fail a lot and be ready to fail quick. The quicker you can set yourself up to get through that first one, it's going to help you move to the next one, the next one, the next one, and be willing to just adapt and move very quickly towards that final goal. Put the big goal out there and just don't take your eyes off of it.
Thank you very much. So that was great advice, and I appreciate you, sir. And thank you, Joel, for
well.
all this wisdom that you share with us. And we're looking forward to hear more from you. And I appreciate your team that being here today with us. And uh, well, I think there's a lot of things that can be said and can be learned from you. So we're looking forward to have maybe more of you in the future, and making sure that our audience is going to be going on the same round. If anybody has any other question, please feel free to reach out to Joe directly and talk with him and find out more information about how he can help you, how he can get you to the right track. And here it is, the information. First direct company, and reach out to Joel and make sure that he get yourself set up for success. I appreciate you, and thank you one more time. And from here, we're gonna go to the next guest.